Hello, everybody. This is Ryan from I Try Running Programs, and we're into the 5th week of the Higdon Advanced 1 Marathon Training Program. And now we're starting to pick up a little bit more in terms of mileage. Last week, ran about 41 miles. This week, you'll see that I ended up running 40-ish miles. And some of the more middle distance runs, still short relatively from the grander scheme of things, but some of the more middle distance days you're starting to see are going to start, pacing upwards to 7, 8, 9, 10 miles over the next few weeks, which is actually pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to them. And this week overall went really, really well. So excited to share the progress. But in terms of the breakdown, Monday, or for me, Sunday, based on how I run it, is a 3-mile run. Monday was a 7-mile run. Tuesday, another 3-mile easy run. And then we got into the one tempo real workout run for this week, which was a 35-minute tempo run and then a rest day. And then I flip-flopped, did my long run on Friday and another middle distance run of 7 miles on Saturday. So I've kind of given it away already, but I did run a little bit more than 40 miles this week. You can see where I train is relatively flat, so I don't deal with a lot of hill work. So basically the miles that I run, that's what I can comfortably run on that day based on the type of pace effort that I'm trying to run. So newer viewers, I always let runners know that I'm in the California area, Salinas to be exact, which is a relatively flat city. So that's just kind of how my training goes. It's relatively easier running courses when I'm picking where I want to run. Now, in terms of the runs themselves, first run of the week, 3-mile run, nice and easy at an 8-mile overall pace. This was a better job for me of staying within that overall 8-minute pace. For my easy runs, I really don't want to go much faster than 8 miles. I talked about last video how I had been dealing a little bit with an Achilles strain. That has gotten better, luckily, just by running through it. Probably not something I necessarily would advocate with most injuries, but it was a very mild strain. So I knew if I was just keeping it moving and being very, very careful while I was running, I'd be okay. And I've also brought in a newer shoe to the mix, the New Balance Breza, which by and large, I think also help. It might be that my Adidas Solar Boosts are they might be done. Even though they're not super high on mileage, I did use them to walk quite a bit before I started running in them, which I know is normally not a smart thing to do. But I'm going to continue to run in them and see how they feel. Worst case scenario, I retire those. I have plenty of new shoes in the garage to use. So I think that helped a lot, was just getting a new shoe with some extra cushioning just to get through the injury. Of course, the downfall is I decided which I don't talk a lot is the fact that I do a lot of lifting is just an adjunctive to my running. And I decided to strain my neck doing shrugs in my home gym. So I traded one injury for another, but overall I'm feeling okay and it's not affecting my running in any major way. Now, in my second run of the week, it was a little bit longer, 7-mile run. This was a run that I did, I want to say relatively early-ish. It was about 6:30 in the morning. And I had some rougher miles in the middle. I'm not particularly sure what the issue was with this run. Didn't feel particularly great once again. But overall, if I was going to have a day where I was going to blow up, I'd prefer it be on one of the easier run days. So overall, not an impressive time to look at from a pace perspective. But you can see that really what it was in the middle section. I had to stop a couple of times to quite frankly just take in some water and let my stomach relax. Very so often I will get nauseous, and I know I talk about this every video for those of you who do watch each training update, but essentially I use yohimbine and caffeine as a fat loss aid when I'm leading up to a marathon. And so that can sometimes not sit well. It's totally luck of the draw. 9 times out of 10, I have 0 side effects on yohimbine. And then that will be, if I do get a side effect, it's usually nausea, and it will just make my stomach hurt very mildly, but enough to make you think about it. So that could have been why. Honestly, I don't remember perfectly why my pace was slower that day, but if I was to hazard a guess, that would probably be it. Now, in terms of the next kind of easy day, was a little bit faster than probably I would have wanted it to be. It came out about 7:40 pace. I believe the reasoning behind this is I was going with my wife to drop off our daughter for preschool. We had a day out together, so I didn't want to fall behind schedule. So I was running it, a little bit faster than I wanted to so I could get home and do some lifting. And that's when I injured my neck. So, maybe don't mix trying to to run too quickly / lifting on the same day. That could probably keep you from getting injured. But overall, nothing really to report here. A very simple 3-mile run, a little bit faster than I would have liked. Now, the tempo run for this week, and the only true workout for this week, was actually a relatively, I guess I could say exciting effort. I was very, very happy with how this went. So this particular run was set up in a way that it would be a 35-minute tempo run. And the way that I like to do it is based on I'll use the GPS map here to break it down. Right here at Natividad Road and Baranda, that intersection, I like to run from my home to that intersection nice and easy. And usually I try to run that like 8 to 9 minutes pace, like super slow, super relaxed. And then the minute the light changes green there and I can cross the intersection, I joke every single time, it's like I'm a gun coming out of a bullet. I just try to go as fast as I can on my tempo run within reason. I'm trying to run basically a 10K race pace. So overall, that was pretty achievable. Now, what I find interesting is that I came out about 6:58 on average there, and then eased into slightly faster work. So I kind of find it strange because I felt like when I was running this, and I don't watch my Strava Android app closely on my phone when I'm running, but I felt like I was actually running more towards 6:30 consistently. So I wonder if the GPS might not have been picking that up correctly, or maybe I did just run 6:58, then 6:53, and then 6:16 for those 3 miles. And then a little chunk of this 8:37 was also at work pace. Then I just took it really easy. And I didn't actually right here, this reason this easy mile was a little bit slower, so I was actually on the phone at that time. So nice, a big bit of extra cool down because I just wanted to get home in time. I think I had to help my wife find her keys or something like that. Something silly at home needed to be solved. So normally I would have probably just stopped running after about another 10 minutes. So I would have done 8 hard, and then about 17, 18 minutes, or excuse me, 8 easy, 17, 18 minutes hard, and then about 8 minutes to 7 minutes, whatever adds up to 35, nice and easy. And then would have just walked home. But I just had something I had to get home to, so I ran a little bit more, even though I ended up walking a little bit. But you can see this is where the work pace started, right around in here, at about the 10-minute mark, and then it just kind of picked all the way up through to about close to the 30-minute mark. So it was about 18, 19 minutes in terms of the overall work effort there. And it just went well. It felt really, really easy to me in terms of that style of effort. It was certainly harder work in general, but just didn't really feel that hard for a tempo run, which is awesome. That's what you want to see. So Strava thought this was my second best estimated 5K and 1 mile effort. So that 6:16, somewhere in there was a 6:13 mile. So it might have been a split of a couple of different miles there that Strava picked up. But once again, this was just overall a quicker effort. And I hate to be a broken record, but these are good to see, but shouldn't be a great indicator of where my training is. And the reason I say that is the best efforts, anything that are lower than a half marathon, I have not tried to race at any point. So they're not things that I particularly try. And so you'll see, I think, a lot of second best efforts, or in some cases even best efforts, and they're not super indicative of like I'm having some major breakthrough. It's just they're efforts I don't run on a consistent basis. So it's good to see that this number is trending down, because my second best effort, I think even 2 weeks ago, was like 21:37. And now my second best estimated 5K effort is 20:51. So that's good to see that that number is continuing to decline very, very quickly. That's where really the estimates are beneficial, because you can see that that's changing over time. But just seeing like, wow, some random workout was a second best estimated effort, by and large doesn't mean a whole lot, because it's not necessarily something that I'm working towards, if that makes some sense. I'm not working to better myself in those distances specifically. Okay. Now, when we get into the long run for the week, this was also a really pleasant surprise, because this was one that I just ran what I felt like was super easy. I left the house really early on Friday. Actually was doing some stuff outside in the front yard and then started running. So started running right around 6 o'clock in the morning and just ran for a solid hour and 54 minutes at a little bit above 8 minute per mile pace. And you can see that those stayed pretty true. I mean, really, really flat. Now, my GPS doesn't show up great on Strava. I don't know what happened there, but I did use like map my run based on the route that I ran just to double check to make sure that I actually ran 14 miles and it didn't just screw it up. And I did run 14 miles on the dot. So it did get the mileage right and it did get the pacing right. It just didn't get the overall map correct. So I didn't just run like a diagonal line back and forth for 14 miles, but it is what it is. The only times that I stopped in here were at stoplights. The particular route that I was taking has probably about 7 or 8 stoplights based on the route that I was running. It's kind of like a double lap around a big chunk of Salinas. So overall, I'm just really thrilled with where this went. If this feels easy, the marathon PR is going to get blown out of the water even if I run an 8 minute pace. If I run closer to 7 minute pace, which is what I want to race at, I could be looking at about an hour PR in the marathon this year. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, but overall, this was really indicative of how much I think this training program has worked so far. I have been a big fan of what Hal has prescribed, because just I'm not getting injured. Each effort feels relatively easy, and the only minor problems I have are just overuse things that go away after a few days. So if the worst I'm dealing with is a light case of runner's knee, or last week like when I had a light Achilles strain and I know just to dial it back, in short, I know that the mileage isn't going to get me in trouble. I can keep myself out of trouble by just running the efforts the way that Hal really recommends to run them. So then lastly, the swap that I did would have been normally for a 7 mile run. The only reason I didn't run this entire run is that I was a little bit short on time. So I had to get back in time for my wife to be able to go back to work. I left to leave to go to work in the morning. I left later in the morning than I would have liked. So I was only able to get 6 miles in instead of the 7. So I just added that mile onto my current week of training. But overall, once again, just an easy run, nothing too crazy to report. Went pretty well, about the 8 minute pace overall. A little bit of variance in the overall individual mile pacing, but not a big deal by and large. So overall, a good week. Once again, looking forward to just seeing how this progresses. This upcoming week has a few more true kind of speed day workouts. So that will be good to see how those go, to see if I'm just going to continue to slowly chip away at getting a little bit faster each week, or if I'm going to start to plateau. Because by and large, I haven't been plateauing. I've just been making steady progress at getting faster while also building my kind of long range endurance. So hopefully that continues to be the case, but I will keep you guys posted in the upcoming weeks to see how it all goes.